Welcome to episode number 28. I am your host, Sebastian ENGSTROM, and today, Tom Kallas joins me. He is an elite powerlifter. He holds the world record in his weight class for squats. I mean, multiple of them, 5 of them. It's a lot. He is also an entrepreneur, businessman. He is a lineman, so blue collar all the way. We get into how he does it as a husband, father, entrepreneur, powerlifter. The guy barely sleeps. We get into his training, his diet, his mindset, how he goes about his life, and how he is able to achieve these monstrous results. It's a fascinating conversation. And if you haven't checked out our programs that we have, check them out. The strength, the calisthenics, gymnastics, CrossFit programs. Check them out at safina.io or safinastrength.com. And to receive 15% off your first month, hit Safina all caps 15. And you'll get 15% off your first month. I do these programs. I couldn't find them out there. That's why I created them. They are video instructions. They're easy to follow. I mean, there's a reason why I am looking and fit the way I am. So check them out. I'll be there to coach you throughout the journey. So enjoy those. And if you haven't done so far, to keep this show running, to repay, do a good favor of the day, please, if you're on Apple, scroll down, hit 5 stars, or hit like, subscribe. If you're on any other platform too, this greatly helps us. Thank you for doing so. And if you enjoy the show, please, I ask you this small favor. Now, enjoy the show and the episode with Tom. Tom Kallas, freaking amazing to have you here. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, happy to be on, man. Appreciate you reaching out and working through Danny a little bit to get me on. Danny's a good dude.
For sure. So we're talking about Danny from Caffeine and Kilos, and you're drinking out of your cup there. And yeah. So it's early in the morning, and this is freaking fascinating. With most high performers that I speak to, you just said you're an early riser, 4 a.m. It's just it's a regular thing. Like, how would you describe yourself? Like, what you do a shit ton of things. So who are you, Tom?
Yeah. Man, I just want to fucking try everything. Like, at first, like I got obsessed with things. Like, so I'm a lineman. I work on power lines here towards the city of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I loved it for a while. It was all I want to do. I'm going to work as much as I can. I'm going to be here as much as I can. This is what I'm going to do. Only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on this. I got pretty good at it. And then I'm like, it's kind of boring. Like, it's still a great job. I love doing it, but I'm like, we want to do something else. So then we started a training company with my buddy, started doing podcasting, started a couple other actually businesses. I'm looking at starting another small business. And then I was actually working at a farm where they was a professional bull riding bulls. They kept them there. And he was like 5 minutes down the road from me. I'm like, do you ride these? He goes, yeah, we take him to shows in Texas. And then my son's like 5th in the world. I go, dude, can you teach me? He goes, yeah, when he comes back home, like, you come by anytime you want. I go, don't tease me, because I'm 5 minutes from you and I will come down. Yeah. And I got to walk through the stables and check out the bulls. I'm like, maybe I'll try bull riding. Like, I don't know. I just like to do anything and everything I can get my hands on, I just don't want no regrets, nothing holding me back. Just as much as I can, fire away, keep going. I'll get up earlier. I'll stay up later. I just like trying new shit.
So, so you having some big numbers in the big 3, is it you that manhandles the bull or the other way around? How is that?
These bulls are big. I didn't realize how big. You watch it, you like see it on TV and stuff. You're like, that's big bull. In person, I'm like, oh shit, that's a big boy. Okay. It would probably be more injury prone than anything. I bet getting launched from the bull. But I'm like, man, it'd be cool just to try it, especially because it's right down the road. I almost can't say no.
Yeah. Dude, that is a freaking highlight in its own. Like, are there competitions? I assume there are in Illinois too.
Yeah, because they have like the rodeos and stuff. So, I mean, I didn't dig that far into it because this is like literally last week. And I was just talking to my wife. She goes, you're not riding a bull. I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. I like just like get on one. If it really sucks, well then, hey, I tried it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now on to the next thing,
Yeah. Dude. Okay. Then what is this new business that you have in mind?
I was actually thinking about, so around here, like, it's one of those businesses you don't really think about that could be super, super profitable, but it's tree trimming.
Hmm.
And like around here, like you go to someone's house and drop a tree, you make like 3 grand in a day.
Wow.
So I was like, well, maybe I'll go buy a bucket truck, go to people's yards, trim their trees, walk around, knock on doors. And half the time, starting a chainsaw in someone's backyard is marketing because everybody's like, I need a tree trimmed. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do that. So I'm just kind of all over the place. And usually my wife has to like hold me back sometimes.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yes.
you're doing
Yes.
too many things. And I'm like,
Yes.
I'm not doing enough. You know what I mean? There is no too many.
I can completely relate to that. Yes. Thank God for the wives.
Yeah, I know.
So, but you have some. We haven't talked about this, but it's early on. But you have some big numbers, some world record numbers. Like you
Yep.
barely mentioned that. Like what's
Yeah, powerlifter.
how big part of your life is that?
It's still pretty big. I mean, no matter what I'm doing at work, outside of work, side ventures, whatever, I'm always in the gym 4 or 5 days a week. Guys are coming. I built like a 4-car garage in my house. I'm fortunate enough to have, and I just matted the whole thing,
Mm.
and then got like a bunch of equipment. So I have like monolift, a bunch of bars, like Nautilus equipment, leg extensions, leg curls, like everything you need to do powerlifting. So I have guys that come over twice a week and train with me. A little bit of a team kind of thing we have going on. So I'm always training 4 days a week, no matter what.
Mm.
You know, and then if I can find a competition, I'll do a competition, and it'll probably get backed off to like yearly because I figure, to me, the better you get or the more time you spend on the sport, you have to do less. Like
Mm.
more competitions is not better for me.
Yeah.
Less competitions.
Uh-huh.
I'd rather be really good at 1 meet a year than like decent at 4. And it's tough on the body with work schedule. Like, yeah, my normal job, like this week I put in 98 hours, and they called me last night at like 2 a.m, wanting me to come in again. Like, nah, I'm not. Today's Halloween, you know? So it's just like finding that time. And then this went into my last meet prep. I'm working like 80 to 100 hours a week, and I'm up at 11. I get home at 11 o'clock at night. I have to train until like, probably make my training sessions a little shorter. So do like 12:30. And then I'm back up at 4:30 because I got shit to do on the computer for the training business before I go back to work, another 16-hour shift. So it's like at a certain point, it's like I can only probably do this so often to, because training heavier takes so much out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was like shorter, smaller workouts, I could probably bang it out and work a lot. It wouldn't really bother me. But having that recovery, that CNS recovery,
Oh, for
the
sure.
heavy weights by yourself at midnight, it's not very fun. It's hard to do. And I'm like, man, this is not that great. So I'm probably going to back it off to like one competition a year and try to aim it to where I'm less busy at work, just because like the sleeping aspect is like my biggest failure. Like I'm terrible at sleeping. Just don't.
Oh, okay. How many hours do you function on?
Throughout the whole prep, I'd probably average like 5. I mean, some days it'd be 2.5 hours.
No.
Some days it'd be 6. It just depended on what my schedule was, what was going on. But I would say average of 5, which it's not terrible, but it ain't great for recovery. It sucks,
Jesus.
And it's just rough.
Yeah, I mean, but given how you look right now, if you put in 98 hours and doing everything that you're doing, you've been blessed with some incredible genes. I'll tell you that. If you're able to function and be as sharp as you are right now, dude.
I don't know if it's genes or just it's drive. I like doing a lot of shit. Like when you reach out to me like 6 a.m., I go, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. I got time. I can make time. I'll get up at 4 and then do my programming, and then I'll be free at 6. And I've always read that too. If you I don't know. When I grew up, I was always, you get up early during the week, kind of, and then the weekends you sleep in as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
And the more I've read about like sleep, because I'm terrible at it, so I'm trying to like, which way can I get around this?
Yeah.
Is if you just wake up at the same time every day, your body like adjusts it and likes that more.
Sure.
So sleeping in the weekends for me, I feel like shit.
Yep.
If I sleep until 8, I feel like garbage when I wake up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, at the latest, I'll get up at 5 every day, no matter what. That way my body knows it's always 5 o'clock, always. And if it's earlier, if I got to get up, I got stuff to do, then I get up at 4. But it doesn't really bother me.
So I'll give you this contrast. I was functioning on 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep to 7, and this was me eventually after a year just feeling like garbage. Like I would repeatedly forget things. I would be a dick literally because I was just feeling like shit. And this is just me. I am one of those people. I need to sleep a lot. If I don't sleep a lot, I am just an ass. Like I'm not an asshole, but I become very easily irritated and I start forgetting things. I'm not paying attention. I'm not present.
Yeah.
And it's just like, then it's not, I mean, what's the purpose of doing anything if I can't even function? You clearly, like
Yeah.
right now, like I see, like you're on it. Everything is easily like lining up for you. So hey, I'm that's amazing. That's incredible that you can have so many irons in the fire and be as sharp as you are and function at the. I mean, Jesus Christ, like 90. I'll just touch on this. 98 hours. What's an average work week? How many hours?
I mean, sometimes I mean, honestly, sometimes it's 60, probably average 60 to 65 average, and then when we get busy, it's 90 to 100.
And this
So
is
it's not
you.
like,
And this is you choosing this. This is your choice.
yeah. So well, sometimes I don't have a choice. Like if
Ah,
there's like a lot of people out of power, there's like you don't go home. You go home and sleep. You can have 8 hours off, and then we need you back for 16. There is no choice. So that sometimes it's we just call it being forced. You're forced. There's no you're here. You have to work for 16 hours, and then you get released for it. Then you're back at 16. And then sometimes it's voluntarily just because I get greedy and I like my job. So I'm like, I don't mind. I'll stay. I'll help the guys out. So a little bit of both.
and being okay, just doing that on its own would be just overwhelming for one person. You do so much more on top of that too. But the interesting part is the family part. How do you get like when how do you get that to work when you're coming home and you're
Yeah.
lifting and you're not waking up
Yeah.
your kids by dropping 700 pounds on the
Yeah.
floor in a deadlift?
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, the work life balance to me is I kind of just don't think there's a balance. I
uh,
really just don't like, okay, so work wants 100% of me. Training needs 100% dedication. My wife needs 100%. My kids need 100%. The side gigs need 100%. Hey, the guy you haven't talked to in a long time that wants to hang out and grab a beer wants 100%.
mm-hmm,
So sometimes you're just not going to fucking get it. You're
mm,
just not. It just doesn't work that way.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, if I worked a 9 to 5 and I was home every day at 4:30 and I could train after the kids went to bed and my life was perfect, I had 5 hour chunk of time with them and then go train. Like, yeah, that'd be great and work life balance. But for me, it's like it's just not there.
mm,
So some days, sometimes I go 3, 4, 5 days without seeing my kids, and that fucking sucks.
wow,
And especially because I work right down the road and I still don't go to see them. So usually, what I'll do is if I'm super busy at work, I can try to shoot home for lunch, hang out with them for an hour, and then go back. Which some like I did that this week. Or if I can get off at a reasonable time, like 4 or 5, then at that time it's strictly dedicated to my kids. From the 5 to 8 o'clock area, depending on what time they go to bed. And then it's either training afterwards or just strictly time with the wife. So it's
mm,
like I just try to carve out chunks, and then like sometimes trainings after everybody's asleep, because then I don't
mm,
feel guilty because everybody's sleeping. I'm only
yeah,
hurting my own sleep. So I'm like, oh, I'll just train now. And then like same thing versus getting up in the morning. If I get up at 4, I have usually like my daughter is an early riser with me. She gets up at like 6, but I'm like,
mm-hmm,
I can have another 2 hours to where I don't feel guilty because I don't like working on the computer. I don't really like doing anything else when I'm home besides being with the family. That's why I train when people are sleeping. I work when people are sleeping. It's easier that way.
so I don't think I've ever come across well, let alone a regular person, but an elite performer like yourself who trains at midnight, more or less, like like late at night. How, like, are you able to just you're out because of the CNS fatigue and you're just all the
Oh,
hormones
dude,
and you're done?
I go to bed now. I can fall asleep right now. Like I
Oh,
just like yeah, I'm fine. I go to sleep anytime. I have a sleep app on my phone. It's called Sleep Cycle.
uh,
Kind of helps me monitor how shitty of sleep I'm getting because
uh,
it'll track me. And some nights I'm like, oh, I did really good or I slept really deep or whatever. So it's kind of cool just to log it. And some nights it'll say by the time I put my phone down, 2 minutes I was fast asleep.
wow.
Like it's just I'm done. When I lay down in that bed, I'm dead. I'm dead to the world. So like I get up like sometimes like I remember last time like about a month ago I was still in prep for a show competition, and I'm like driving home at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm
Mm.
just like yelling at myself like you're just gonna drop your bag and you're gonna train. You're gonna drop your work bag. You're gonna change your jeans. You're gonna train. Like I have to keep telling myself because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do anything. Like I'm
Yeah,
just dead.
yeah,
And then that night, like I talked myself into like a huge double PR because it's just like that mindset. Like
yeah,
you're going to the gym, you're not going to put in a shit hour
yeah.
because you're already staying up late. So you might as well make it count. So I could slam a pre-workout at 11, train till 12:30, and I will fall asleep at 12:35. Like
Wow.
I'm dead, done.
So the pre-workout, give a shout out. Might as well do it. What is it?
Yeah, Huck Finn barbell.
Yeah.
It's a buddy of mine. We've been good friends for a dozen years now.
Uh-huh.
He's a little bit, I gotta say, probably social media famous. Does a lot of crazy stunts and stuff. He's a wild man. And he came out with his own supplement brand about a year or two ago. Awesome product. It's intense. It's a lot of caffeine, but he makes a great product. He really does.
Okay. So you're okay. This adds another layer. It's full of caffeine, and you slam it down at 11. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it just doesn't do like I don't know. Like it'll hit me for like that hour,
Yeah.
and I can still tell. Like sometimes if I take too much, it'll take me like 20 minutes to get to like just to finally fucking relax when I'm in
Yeah.
bed. And I can tell I'm like, fuck, I took too much. But still, like, I don't know. I've always been the type of person, my head hits the pillow, that's it.
Okay.
I'm out.
So
So,
going into your training, what does that look like? You said 4 to 5 times a week. You take us through what is the structure like?
so typically it's Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday. So I'll have an upper, so if I'm in prep, it'll be a heavy bench day on a Monday, which is
Mhm.
usually solo, which that makes it kind of hard. But and then Tuesdays is deadlift days. I usually get a couple guys to come out and train on deadlift days, unless it's super late. Then I just do it myself.
Uh-huh.
Wednesday's always off day, and that's when I usually podcast at night
Huh.
because it's an off day, so it's easy for me. Thursdays is if I'm in prep, like if I'm deep into prep and I have 3 weeks out, sometimes I don't train Thursdays because it's like a shoulder day. It's like either a heavy barbell overhead press movement or like arms, shoulders, rear delts and stuff. And sometimes I feel like you get so beat up that
Mhm.
extra accessory work 3 weeks out really doesn't aid to your
Right.
total in 3 weeks.
Yep.
Sometimes it actually hinders it
Yep.
because you're overtraining, especially because I wasn't sleeping. I definitely wasn't sleeping a lot during this prep. I'd skip it because I'm like, it's just not. I don't really care if my biceps aren't strong. Like I don't need them. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
really bother me to skip that. Basically,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to shoulder press heavy because I'm barbell benching heavy, so I really can't hit both without fully recovering.
Hmm.
So sometimes I'd skip it, but when I'm typically in an off season, I'm always hammering like an overhead press movement and then arms that day, and then Fridays. I always do Friday night squats at my place at like 7:30, and there's usually sometimes there's 4 or 5 guys, sometimes there's 10 people over training because
Jesus.
I have a nice setup. Like I bought a
Uh-huh.
nice monolift, nice bars, nice equipment. I got like it's 4 cars full 4 car full of equipment.
Uh-huh.
So then it's like you get like a nice little atmosphere going. So if I worked a shitload the whole week, like that, just the atmosphere of being around other people and
Yeah.
training and
Yeah.
like the music, I
Hmm.
forget about everything. Forget about how much I worked. Forget about I got to go to work tomorrow. Forget about I got to get up early. It's just like squat. It's all that matters. And like
Mm.
everybody's in the same mentality. So and then when you're prepping with somebody, like usually I prep with my buddy Cam. We'll do meets together. We can
Mhm.
always feed off each other too. And we
Mm-hmm.
squat about the same. He's a little heavier, so he's pushing the numbers a little bit harder, but like it's always like a fight between us. So it's nice having that kind of not really a rivalry, but just
Yeah.
someone because if you're squatting 800 and everybody else squatting 5, it's not really. It's just
Yeah.
hard to get fired up for
Yeah.
everybody. Like because I mean, you want to me, everybody's 100% is the same. But when you are training heavy and you only got a couple weeks left of prep,
Yeah.
for someone to push you is what you
For
want.
sure.
And he
Yeah.
did that through the whole entire prep, so it was awesome. And he wasn't even competing, but he just matched all my numbers all the way up, which was cool
Okay.
because it does help.
Sure. So Saturday, Sunday, anything there?
No,
Done.
I'm
Yeah.
either picking up. I usually work a shift or two at work. Usually I will always work Saturdays. Sundays I usually don't work. Usually I pick up a shift at work, and then it's just help the wife pick up the house. We'll do stuff for the kids. Try to take them. Like right now it's pumpkin patch season,
Yeah.
so we do stuff with pumpkin patches. Try to take them out as much as we can. Stuff like that. So weekends I typically try to take off. I'm still in the mornings working. Usually Saturday, Sundays I work a lot more on the training business just because I have the more time in the morning, so I don't have to rush to get out the door around 6.
Hmm.
So usually I'll do like a 4 to 7, and then I'm done for the day. I don't
Mm.
look at my anything on the computer. I'm just down to check out. And then Sunday morning, same thing, 4 to 7 on the computer, and then I'm done for the day. And whatever the kids want to do or wife's got lined up, we do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that helps
Okay.
with that balance part,
Sure. For sure. So with the training, what if you go into a one step deeper or one layer deeper? So let's bench day. Like what exercises did you do this week, for example? Sets, reps, even.
Well, this week's not gonna be a good example because I tore my lat. So
Okay.
everything's right
Right.
now is recovered on the lat. But typically in a say I'm in a meet prep and I'm like a month out or whatever, I'll typically do, which is not like most powerlifters, is I'll basically move my main movement, which is the bench press,
Mm-hmm.
to the end of the workout.
Yep.
So I'll do all my accessories basically before I even bench, because we found out that one, it really doesn't take away from that main movement bench,
Yep.
and two, you're actually more usually warmed up for the bench. Like sometimes people
Absolutely.
say, "Oh, I didn't feel good until I hit my top set."
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you weren't really warm, were you, the whole
Yes.
time?
Yes.
So we move them, even for our clients we train, we typically have them bench later in the sessions, and they're like, "Hey, does this work out right? Like my bench is like my last thing." I go, "Yeah, do that for a reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's part of it. So there's a method to the madness, you know." So usually it's like I'm a big fan of bands. So anything I can do bands, like band flies, band bench press, just to get that
Mm-hmm.
movement. Because I'm not a huge stretching kind of guy. I'd rather do active movement to get warmed
Mm-hmm.
up. Um, any kind of dumbbell work, and then with the bench press too. Like I only straight bar bench probably 5 weeks a year if I
Mm-hmm.
can. If I can get away with not benching on a straight bar, I do. I do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of multi grip. And then I'm a closer grip bench anyway because I tore my pec minor, and I'm like, I don't want to go through this again.
Mm-hmm.
So I move my grip in to save my pecs and then just hammer my triceps.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I just don't think that the bench move is not just great. It's not great for your body, man. That's why people
Sure.
tear pecs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll try to get away with as much multi grip as I can, or like decently close grip, before I move it a little bit out to like a competition style bench. And half the time that's like 3 weeks out because I'm like, I
Sure.
just don't want to do it. I can get stronger with the variations rather than a straight barbell bench, banging up my elbows, banging up my biceps, and then putting pressure on those pec tendons, you know?
Yeah. So what type of exercises would be before a bench press? You mentioned a few with bands.
Yeah, I would do like a lot of flies with bands, probably at least 150 reps of flies on each pec
Mm.
before. That's like the first thing I'll do. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do some core, like some plank shoulder taps and plank front reaches. Um, then typically it'd be like a neutral grip dumbbell bench, maybe an incline fly.
Mm-hmm.
Might do some like rear delts just to open up, and then like a wide grip pull down and some seated rows.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way my full upper body is warm. Like I know it is.
Yep.
And then the first time I take the bar out when I'm benching, I feel good
Yep.
because warm.
Absolutely.
I already
Yep.
worked out a bunch.
Yes.
And that's typically how I do it. I usually go for like 5 movements and then sometimes superset it in those movements. And then about this fifth or sixth movement is that main movement bench press.
Yeah. So what about deadlift and squat day? What do you do before the main lifts?
Well, a lot of it, I was having some knee tendonitis issues. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it I got an old tire that I put dumbbells in, and I put a belt on, and I just walk backwards for like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That pushing away is like the best thing you could do for your knees and active recovery. So I typically do that before any leg day ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd always do a walk kind of around the streets here and then come back, and my legs, I could basically squat right after that. Like it felt so good because your
Yep.
legs are pumped, your knees feel good. So I do that. I do like a lot of single leg isolation. So I do like single leg step down, single leg step up, single leg box squats. Um, then like any lateral movements I can do with like a hip circle or a band around my knees. Um, I have a leg press, so sometimes I do like 100 reps of leg press before I do anything too. And then now I got leg extension, leg curl because I just got these machines like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do some of that, but more as a warm up. Like I wouldn't do like, so like on a leg extension, for example, at the end of a workout, I like to do like a lot of tempo stuff or like holds at the top. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
do that before I heavy squatted because I like to fatigue a little bit, but I don't want to beat the shit out of my legs before I try to squat. So it'd be more of like a warm up routine of a, superset of a curl and extension, 3 sets, 10 reps, just moving, and then into the heavy movement. And then if I don't feel like I got enough out of it at the end of after I got done squatting, I would go do extensions and curls with tempo or holds or pauses just to, really build that or break down that muscle fiber.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome how how you structured. I'm completely aligned with that after many years of yeah, just feeling like you say, you warmed up by that last rep of that heavy lift. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
like
right.
and at the end, like I have a limited amount of time. I don't want to BS around and I need to
Yep.
get after it. So what is my
Yeah.
most bang for the buck? And I would skip the warm up at times when I was short on time and just get into accessory work. And I'm like, wait, I feel amazing. And my lifts are getting so much better. My numbers are climbing. And like you're saying, I mean, that's how I structure my programs that we offer as well. And I mean, it's the same exact thing: getting your CNS fired up, getting your
Right.
muscles activated. Because even especially after a weekend, when like you start forgetting, like your muscle memory, whatever it might be, like you start forgetting, you don't have that same activation, you don't feel your muscles. All of a sudden when you start getting all those reps in all of a sudden, boom, you're ready to go. And that's awesome with that leg, or I mean with the tire drag. That's
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
it helps a lot, man. I think, especially for like, we sometimes we focus on just prehabbing instead of rehabbing,
Yeah.
and then like stuff like that is great for like prehab, just so like we can prevent injuries. Because half the time
Absolutely.
it's just like you just don't want to get hurt. Like let's just get to the prep without an injury. That's half
Yeah,
the battle sometimes.
for sure.
So
So with this type of training, how do you focus on deload? Do you do any deload at all?
so the way we structure our programming is we do 3 week cycles. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be basically the easiest way to break it down is like light, medium, heavy,
Yep.
right? And then
Yep.
the cycle starts over on whichever main movement you have. So say I'm multi-grip benching for 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
light, medium, heavy, essentially. When I start over, I might be going to a close grip. So the main movement's changing. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, we don't have to deload as often.
Right.
So in a meet prep, for me, maybe I usually deload twice because the week of the meet obviously is the deload. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd still like the week of the meet, the day before the meet, I squatted 400 or 500. I'm like, I just want to move. I
Mm-hmm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
to be in the gym. I like to move. And it
Yep.
was Friday night squats. So I'm like, I can't miss it.
Yep.
I'm still going to squat.
Yep.
I don't care if I have a meet tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
So the week of the meet's obviously deloaded or 50% ish of your openers.
Uh-huh.
And we're still moving, we're always pushing blood. But besides that, I took another deload about 4 weeks out just
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't so much the weights were killing me. It was everything else. It was the
Mm-hmm.
lack of sleep. It was the work. It was doing, having 20 different irons in the fire. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was everything else that was accompanying to be like, you need a break. And
Yep.
the weights are telling you, hey, you can't keep up with us right now. Take a week
Mm-hmm.
off. And I'm like, you just got to listen. And that's when we get like a lot of lifters. If we tell them that, like, hey, you look like you're beat up, take a week off. Your sleep's probably shit, blah, blah. They're like, well, I don't want, they get nervous. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't need to lift heavy all the time to be strong. We don't need to be strong in the gym. We need to be strong in the meet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's kind of hard to train it sometimes because it's just a lot of like talking to the client. But for me personally, I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I just don't. Like, I know what my body needs. And it's not lifting heavy this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 50% everything. Drop it. Still go in the gym. Still probably push accessories as much as I can. But that heavy movement just sometimes just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to listen to your body because then people try pushing through the not there moments
Mm-hmm.
and they get hurt or they just get disappointed.
Yeah.
So then the whole rest of the prep, they're like, why didn't I get that squat? I'm like, you just needed a deload. Like, you just
Mm-hmm.
need to relax.
Yeah.
And so doing this for long enough, I know when I need a deload. My body will tell me, and I go, all right, this week sucks. Like, it's just not going to happen this week. We'll get after it next week.
Sure.
We'll just push accessories and pull a tire around. It's easier.
How did all this obsession about working out, lifting heavy, how did all this start? Big question.
I guess it probably started when I was about 12. We had a gym in the basement growing up.
Uh-huh.
We had like the weeder home gym thing, with all the
Okay.
attachments and stuff. And then we had like a power rack. And then for Christmas one year, my older brother got like the 300-pound weight set, you know what I mean? With the
Uh-huh.
barbell and all the
Uh-huh.
plates and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we just started, my dad's like, you're not just going to sit around in the summers because in the summers, you're going to work out and you're going to split wood.
Mm.
So, because I lived on a farm. So we had propane, but propane's extremely expensive. So we'd always go cut down trees and then bring it home and then cut firewood. Like, so that's what you're going to do all summer. And then when I was like 12, it was time to step up and start doing all that stuff with my brothers. And we just started training, and then we had friends come over and train. And then, I don't know, it just kind of always stuck. And then I just never let go. Like, we all kind of traded powerlifting style because, when you're especially getting into the high school years, everybody wants to be the biggest bencher,
Sure.
who's the strongest. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
about anything else,
Right.
but just who's the strongest. So I always kept that mentality of who's the strongest.
Uh-huh.
So then eventually, like, I have two older brothers. They were both stronger than me. Eventually, I passed them by miles now because, they're not, one's a surgeon and one's basically a male gigolo in Austin, Texas. So like our paths are very different. I just kind of really hammered with the powerlifting because I'm like, this is my shit. And then I was fortunate enough to have like a good gym like right down the road with this guy I partnered up with named John Jursic. And he took me under his wing and I got to train with some of the best powerlifters in the world at like 19.
Mm.
So like that drive just and the fire just kept going. We kept throwing logs in the fucking fire, and it just never quit. And even when the team kind of fell apart, just moved into my garage. Said I don't need it. I'll just train by myself. And then people started coming here. So I'm like, this worked out great.
Were there sports involved during this too?
Yeah, I played baseball for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and I played soccer for a long time.
Would
Like
you
they
just
were
maul
fun.
people down, or what? Like, what would happen?
I usually had like I think I led the team in like yellow and red guards. So I was just kind of an asshole, and I worked out a lot. So I'm like I was typically stronger than most of the guys, just because like soccer
Yeah.
players are not known for being
No.
strong.
Uh-uh.
So and I like was, which didn't make me the fastest, but if
Uh-huh.
I can catch up to you, you know what I mean. So I played like a lot of high school sports and stuff, but I just did it because it was fun. But even then, so when I was in high school, I decided to do bodybuilding competition.
Mm-hmm.
So and we had soccer practice every day from like whatever 4 to 6. So I'm like, well, I'll just do it in the mornings. So I'd get up at 4 in the morning. I'd go drive 30 minutes to the gym. I'd train for an hour, hour and a half. Come home. I'd eat my eggs and protein shake, and then I go to school, soccer practice, and then sometimes soccer practice had the gym, but just was never adequate for me at the time. So I would just do it before, and then I go home and do it all over. So it's like this kind of lifestyle, like just always been doing it, like, without
Yeah.
even knowing it. It's like I actually forgot about that when I used to get up early and train for the bodybuilding show before school and soccer practice, because I don't know, it's just now it's like normal, you know.
Yeah. So even back then, like you were just, I mean, it shouldn't have changed, right? You were optimized on a little sleep then too. It was just about getting after it
Yeah,
early. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
yeah, just getting everything done that I want to do, you know.
Yeah. Why did you abandon bodybuilding?
Um, it's just a tough fucking sport. Like it's
Uh,
just hard. I mean, the diet I was super good on. Like
mhm.
if I was told like eat this, this, and this, and this for every day for 6 months, I go, okay, no problem. It didn't matter what time, didn't matter what I was, where I was at. I had my food. Like that part was like almost simpler to me because I'm like, I know what I'm eating. My body feels really, really good because it's eating the same clean foods every day.
Uh-huh.
But I just didn't, I lacked the size. So I was 18. I walk on stage like 145. So
Uh-huh.
it's fucking small, dude.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I kind of want to be bigger and stronger. Like, I don't want to be just how lean can I get, how big and how strong I can get, which obviously was a good venture right towards powerlifting. And that was when I was 18. And I was like, I'm kind of done with this bodybuilding shit. Cause I did 5 shows over 2 years. It was fun. I learned a lot, but I'm like, it's just not my niche. And then I got into powerlifting and I went from squatting like 500 to 700 in like a relatively short amount of time.
Jeez.
I think when I was 3 years into the sport, I took my first world record. So I'm like, oh, this is my niche. Like I'm good at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So then obviously I just kept running with it because I'm like, oh, I'm good at this. Let's keep going.
Okay. Wow. So how tall are you?
And not very 5'7".
Okay. And the food when you were doing bodybuilding, what was that like? What did you eat?
Let's see. I would be like egg whites and oatmeal in the mornings.
Uh-huh.
And then it'd be like a fruit or something midday. And then lunch would be chicken rice. Or if it was closer to the meat, it'd be like chicken and lettuce, with like a no calorie dressing or whatever. Then a protein shake for the fourth meal, quote unquote. And then
Mhm.
the fifth meal would be like 8 ounces of chicken or turkey or like 97% lean beef. And then possibly a carb source. It just depended on how far I was out from them. Basically, everything started out with more carbs. And then as you tailored towards the show, it was less and less and less. And like my body liked it. Like I ate super clean. I
Uh-huh.
lost like, 20 pounds, whatever, with it. And I
Uh-huh.
felt pretty good, but I'm like, I feel small and weak also, just being that light, like I was fragile.
Yeah. How did that shift when you started powerlifting and your food? What was your diet like then?
So when I first started powerlifting, I was actually grouped with these older guys at this gym in this town called Cortland, and they're like, "Yeah, you can just forget about diet, you eat whatever you want now." And I'm kind of looking at the guys, and they're like sloppy, older,
Mm-hmm.
overweight. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, yeah, but I don't want to look like you when I'm 60." So I'm like, I don't
Did you
mind.
tell them
Like, so
that?
like I was, no, in my head, but I was like, I know this is not good advice.
Yeah.
So basically, I just started eating more carbs, and I would try to push protein. And then there was times where I would like go for a heavy push where I would try to put on like 20 pounds to lift heavier. But half the time when you do that, if you go for like a heavy push to put on weight, you're changing your like your form, like your body is changing, mechanics are changing. So you're like fighting yourself to find new ways to pick up the bar because your fucking guts in the way now.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually found and stumbled onto like I had a friend who runs a company here called Hybrid. And I became friends. Now I'm pretty good friends with the head nutritionist there, and me and him worked together for like past 4 years. And
We're
he got
talking
me on a better
Hybrid Performance in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hayden owns that. He's a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And I got to talking to him about it. I'm like, I just feel kind of sloppy. Let me just try one of your diets. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. And he's like, oh, okay. He goes, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Like, it'll all be free, blah, blah. I'm like, all right. I'm like, whatever. If I have to pay, I have to pay. It's not a big deal. But he's like, let me set you up. So I went with this guy called Francesco Catalano. And I've been with him for 4 years. And now it's more of we just check in with each other once a week. Hey, man, how's it going? How's the meat prep going? Like all the shit. And then he'll like send me useful links. But like now, like he dialed me in pretty good to where I used to track macros every day for like 3 years. That was like the big switch from like kind of trying to eat healthy and like, but then when you do that, like I didn't realize how much protein I wasn't getting in. Like I would eat like some days 120 grams of protein, but I just wouldn't think of it, you know? And then when I started tracking macros, it taught me better habits and like, oh, you suck at eating protein. You need to up your protein because that's the best way to look better. It changes your body composition and you recover better. So simple things like that. And then after like 3 years of tracking, I just stopped. I was going through like a move. We were moving into this house. I was getting married and all this stuff. I'm like, he goes, just take a break. He goes, you know how to eat. Just try to build on your good habits. And that's where I've been for a year now. Like even at this meet, I didn't diet down. I didn't do anything. I just ate what I ate. And I weighed in like a pound under my weight class. So I just know how to eat now.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. You know, I didn't really get ever sloppy because I feel like the same thing. Like everything changes. So bigger is not always better. If you sleep worse, if you can't move, if I can't play tag with my kids in my front yard,
yes.
Like what am I doing? Why are you know what I mean? So what, you can try to squat 20 pounds more. You can't play with your kids. Like, it's just like, which one do you want? You know, you want the best of both worlds.
So what does a day of eating look like right now?
Pretty simple. I'll usually wake up. My main thing is like, how much protein can I get in the morning and afternoon? So if I want to eat a little worse at night, I can. So like this morning, I'm sure my wife will cook me like 4 or 5 egg whites, sometimes like a steak or chicken with it, and then like protein pancakes. So that way I'm hammering the protein right off the bat. And I might do a shake later in the day or fruit and like a bagel just to kind of fill me up a little bit. And then lunch would typically be like last night's dinner. So whatever it was. So sometimes it's basically chicken and rice. Sometimes it's shrimp and rice, steak and rice, steak and potatoes, like whatever it was from last night. I would take that. So you get your protein and a little bit of carb source. And then she always throws in vegetables to make sure I eat good. Otherwise I just won't fucking eat them. And then let's see, probably around 4, I usually have like protein chips. Like I'm just trying to hammer that protein all day because I don't forget about it. And then at night, it's whatever the old lady cooks for dinner. And she's always like, knowing how I've always eaten for the past 4 years, she's always like, it's always super low fat, moderate carbs, high protein. So whatever, even if she does like a chicken parm, it will be like either grilled chicken or air fried chicken that she buys that's like super low fat and high in protein. And then like she'll make the sauce by hand and stuff. So she knows what's in it. Yeah. So that helps a lot. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a lifesaver. I almost don't have to think about my food because like half the meals she makes for me.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Like I'm like so fucking spoiled with it. Sure. It's awesome.
So even during a regular work week, it's similar to that. You just bring the food with you, or work day.
Regular work week. It's like the first, because I'm guaranteed I'll be there for 5 days, like sometimes 6, sometimes 7, but typically it's 5 to 6 days. It's like the same things in my bag every single day: fruit, bagel, chicken and rice, protein chips, protein shake. Like it's all there. And if I, for some reason I don't have something or I'm starving, I just go to the nearest place and get a chicken breast sandwich plain. Or with barbecue sauce, because I know it's low in fat and high in protein. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and then my food goes with me. I have a little warmer on my truck that I heat my food up in, and I'm good to go, man.
Okay. So it's a very, you can say more of a traditional approach. And, I mean, kudos to you for sticking with it. I guess it's just become such an ingrained habit. And
yeah, that's all it is. Just a habit, you know?
Yeah.
And my body likes it. Like, it likes eating the same shit. You just feel better.
Yeah. So I used to do that, and then I shifted more towards, now I do more higher fat. I don't do the whole keto approach, because when that happens, it's just disaster pants right off the bat. I don't handle that well. So I do fairly high protein, but I eat a lot of carbohydrates and I eat complex carbohydrates. So a lot of squashes, many different, like, I even do grains. So grains from, we're talking rice, brown rice, different types of, I mean, grass fed meats, chicken, fish, but variety of that, but very high fat. So we're talking probably 8 tablespoons of olive oil on every single meal, but I only eat,
Holy shit,
yeah, but
man,
we're
that's a
talking high fat.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. So,
That's high.
and that's cooked with a lot of fat too. But I eat 2 meals a day, and I do intermittent fasting just because I realized, okay, I go
Oh,
a
okay.
whole lot better with this. I'm curious with your approach when you hear that type of stuff. Like, what comes up for you?
Well, see me like I just typically I've been low fat
Uh huh. Yeah.
always. Like
Right.
ever since I started tracking, like even when we were like underweight at a meet, I'd have like 60 grams of fat a day. And that was
Mm,
it.
mm,
You know, what I mean, I was heavier on like sometimes like one of these meets I did particularly, I was like 500 carbs a day, 60 grams of fat, 220 protein because
mm,
my body was like a machine at that time. I was just burning everything off.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've always kept low fats, and for I think for a lot of like the clients we train, because we do nutrition as well,
Yep.
we typically fit um, more macros towards a lower fat end. I mean, everybody's different,
Sure.
but we always typically do low fat, but to each their own.
Sure. Yeah. Are any of the power lifters, any of the people that you've come across in powerlifting, like how prevalent is, like, for example, carnivore or keto?
We've had a couple clients and the people I know, but it's like kind of on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people, and then like you you see the sport of powerlifting switch about 8 years ago ish with like Dan Green being in his prime. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you can be jacked, lean, strong. Like it's like the ways like the old fat sloppy powerlifter have really gone. I mean, look at like I mean, not a great example, but kind of, but Larry Wheels, like he was a power. I used to compete with Larry Wheels. Like there's a picture of me him sitting next together in California before he blew up into this whatever international superstar, whatever
Yeah.
he is now. But um, yeah, you just like see these lean guys like, oh, you don't need to be sloppy anymore. So most people like I would say they have like I don't know what I call an average diet, but I don't really see a lot of the keto or carnivore or
Right.
anything. I think people hop on fads,
Yeah.
but people always go back to what they know,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
And
It's
it's just not
fast.
it's not hard. It's not hard to do. Like you lose weight, you be at a deficit. Gain weight, you have to have you have to eat more calories. Like I just tell people, main people asking for diet advice. I'm like, track your protein, eat more of it. Talk to me in 6 weeks.
Sure.
Because if you can't do that, then don't talk to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna waste my
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
because most people are protein deficient.
If we go into Hathor Bjornsson, I mean, the guy's beast. I mean, shredded as hell. And I mean, I think that for me at least, that is a big significant part of when I look at powerlifters. I'm like, Jesus, there's a shift in this. Like, you don't need to
There's yeah,
be have a big gut and really put up major
nope,
weight. So
right.
him being a big name, like, what were people? Who were idols that you looked up to growing up, or who are even like big names right now? Like, dude, I like how you go about lifting. I mean, damn, I admire you.
So at first it was like the Lily Bridges, right?
Mm,
So Eric Lilliebridge was one of the best in the world at the time, and he was young too. He was like 25. I'm like squatting. The time when I met him, he was squatting around 9, and he was pushing 1,000 pound squats. He pushed up to a 900 pound deadlift when we were training together and stuff like that. So like he was one of them. Like fuck, and I got to train with him. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god. Um, and then it was I don't know, like Dan Bell's always been cool. Like we're
Uh-huh.
pretty fucking tight. So like just watching him lift, like he's been in my house quite a few times, even though he moved to Florida. And he would. It was funny. We would. I'm like, all right, well, if you're in town, we're gonna go out. So we go out to
Mm,
the bars, we're like drinking together, hanging out to like 2 in the morning, just being idiots.
yeah.
And then we'd come home, sleep until like 9. He wouldn't eat, and we'd go train in the garage. And I watched him do like 1,005 squat for 3 reps within 45 minutes. I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like,
Oh,
it was like you haven't eaten anything. Like, I told my wife because he came in for like a week maybe, and I said, yeah, you can just room my house. You can stay here as long as you want. Blah blah. And I'm like, all right, well, we gotta get more food because Dan's coming. He's a 400 pound human being. The dude barely eats,
no.
drinks all night, then squats 1,000 for a triple. I'm like, all right, dude. Well, I guess we're not all created equal. I'm like, what the hell, man? So it's definitely cool. Like I wouldn't so much say idolize him because he's just like, because we're too close now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's not like
yeah.
somebody like I see on TV or whatever.
Sure.
It's like, oh, you're just my buddy. I'll just call you. But it's definitely like cool, just like to get fired up to like watch him lift, you know. And then I would travel just to go help him compete. You know, it's
Yeah.
just we do that stuff for each other. So it's kind of cool to have that connection. He's got the biggest total of all time ever.
Yeah.
So that's that's insane.
So, speaking of, we'll jump into a little bit of what you've seen him eat because you say he barely eats, but also then we'll jump into your goals. What does he eat, Dan?
I don't know. He's telling me like because his wife's Italian and they
Uh-huh.
live down the road from like their grandparents, so she's always dropping off like chicken cutlets and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I know he eats a lot of that. I know he eats like a decent amount, but when I was hanging out with him, like he had like one like after we squatted, he was like, "Yeah, I'll have like a Jimmy John's." And he had like one sandwich. I'm like, "Don't you want like two or three?" He's like, "No, I just need one." I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?" So he just I don't know where I'm like, how do you put on? I think more for him it was like I just got to maintain this weight because
Yeah,
I already ate my weight up to 400 or 385 at the time, whatever it was. Because I just eat when I want to eat, and that's it. I'm
yeah.
like, so I like barely even saw the dude eat for like a week. It was like the strangest thing ever. It's
Jesus.
weird.
So
Yeah.
speaking of him having the biggest total ever, what are your goals?
Well, I was thinking about that the other day too because I've been kind of because when I first started lifting, like I said, I hit my first world record at 21, and it was always in lighter weight classes. So I took it. I had 165 world record squat twice, or I broke my own. And then I had the 181 world record once. I had the 198 world record. These are all squats and reps. I had the 198 world record twice. Um, and now I'm like, I'm always banging against these same numbers, like around, like the other day I walked out 805 and the spotters took it from me. I tore my lat doing it, but I still think I could have got it and walked out. You know, it increased the level of difficulty. But I'm like, I'm always right around 800. Right before tearing my pec minor, I was running a 400 bench, and then right now I was probably knocking on a 700-pound deadlift if I didn't tear my lat when I squatted. So I'm like, those numbers are like they're solid for 198. Anywhere I go, I'm probably going to get first. Like whatever, it's not really. I'm not really there for like the little trophies and stuff, but like it's good. It's a solid total for 198. But I'm like,
Hmm.
I really want to squat 850 or 900.
Huh.
And there's no fucking way I'm doing it at 198. I might be able to weigh in at
Uh,
198 and do it, maybe, but
hmm.
I got to be 220. It's just not going to happen. Anybody like Chad, I think it's Chad Penson, he squatted 881 at 198.
Uh-huh.
But the dude was like 225 when he did it. I'm like, because I was talking to him at the meet. He's like, yeah, 220 or 225 or whatever. I'm like, all right, I need to get back to this. Like, I got to put on some weight
Hmm.
because I really like in my lifetime, I'd really like to squat 9. I go, I'm going to have to be 220 or 230 minimum. So it might
Hmm.
take me another 2-3 years of not putting on sloppy weight, walking around the weight, doing a couple competitions at the weight.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'd like to squat 9. I'd like to be a mid force bencher, and I'd like to pull, mid sevens deadlift, and that's within the next 2-3 years. Like, if everything I can just keep chipping away. I'd like to be like make a push to be 260, 275, maybe depending on where I'm at when I'm 35, and try to push towards like 1,000-pound squat.
Yeah.
But I just know how heavy I'm going to have to be because if I look back at my training, I've always been able to do a 4 times body weight squat. I did
Huh.
it at 165. I did it at 181. I did it basically last week at 198. So I've always been consistently, whenever I gain weight, I can put on and do 4 times that in reps on a squat. I'm like, so I just have to get heavier and just see if everything else will keep up. So
Mm.
that's like long-term goals. Like that 900 would be huge. And I can do like 903 in a meet on the squat. I'm going to have to be heavy. 1,000 would be a lot. I'd have to be pretty heavy for 5'7" frame. It's just, that's a lot of weight to put on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're going to chip away. I got to squat 850 first. And then we'll just start chipping away at 9 and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So what keeps you just shipping at it? Like what's the drive behind it? It's just like I've done this for such a long time. I love it. Or is there something like, hey, I'm gonna prove to someone? Like what is the deep driver?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, like there ain't nothing better feeling than having like 8 plates on your back and smoking. Like just looking at the weight sometimes, I'm like, fuck, man, that bar's like,
Yeah.
it's heavy. It's
Yeah.
fucking, it looks heavy. I'm like, fuck, man. But like, and then getting underneath it and fucking owning the weight and making it
Mm-hmm.
like making 800 feel like 500. I'm like, fuck, this feels good. It took me a year to do this, but I'm back. You know what I mean? I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. It's that, and then like, I feel like slapping God in the face if I don't push, because I'm built to squat.
Yeah.
Obviously, like,
Yeah.
not saying that the world records are easy, but they came very quickly. And like, I was in the career, in powerlifting for 2.5, 3 years, maybe. Not even know what I'm doing for the first one, and then I squatted a world record. So it's like, not that it came easy, but it's like, for my body, I'm built to squat.
Yep.
So if I decide not to do that, it's like, hey, God built you this way. You're just gonna fucking throw it away, like push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's like in service not to do it. So just that keeps me pushing, and then like that extra 5-pound PR, that 20-pound PR after a year and a half of training, like doesn't seem like a lot, but that extra pound is like everything to me at some points. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's everything. It's all matters.
So with the last meet, you tearing a lat, do you want to tell us how that happened, and did you feel it coming on?
Yeah. So this meet, it was USPA. So you had to walk your squats out, which I knew. So I started walking my squats out probably 4 months ago. So that really didn't affect me. I think it does take pounds off your squat just because you have to walk it around for a little bit before you squat it. So I hit my opener at like 733, easy, buried, dunked. Then I took 782, easy. I'm like, oh, like even when I took the bar that day, when I was in the back warm up, I took 135. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna squat 800 today. I already know this. I like, some days you just fucking know when you're on, and I peak perfectly. So I'm like, oh, I know, I'm good. So I was doing double plate flips in the back. I would go 155, 325, 500, 600, 700. I'm ready to go. Like in five sets, 5 reps. Let's go. I don't need anything because I'm already warmed up. So then I took, like I said, the 782, hit it, and I go, the USPA record was like 804, but you can chip it and take the record. So I'm like, oh, I'll just chip it. Give me 805 and a half or whatever the fuck it is. And I walked it out. It was a little shaky on the walkout, but sometimes that CNS doesn't allow you to be, straight and stiff. Like, because I was shaking a little bit, like my head, I'm like, fuck. But as soon as I settled and got the squat command, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I got this. I came down, hit my reps. Probably could have hit them a little bit harder, but I hit them pretty well. Came out of it. And then I just started to feel my left, because I was so tight, I started to feel my left lat like a little bit. And then before I knew it, I just felt like a zipper opened in it. Like, and I'm like, I knew it was a tear. From tearing my pec minor, I go, okay, I tore my lat. And this was like, it's within what, in a matter of a second, 2 seconds? Like, it felt like everything was slow. I'm like, okay, I tore my lat, but I still feel good. So then all the weight shifted to my left knee, but I'm like, but just shift it back to your right. So I'm like thinking of all this as like in this 1 second.
Yeah.
So I felt it tear. I'm like, okay, shift back, push. And I started to push out of it. I'm like, oh, fuck, I got this.
Yeah.
And then the judge goes, take it. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
I was like, you got to let me fucking fight. Because I was just shifting the weight back to my other knee because I didn't want to squat it on one.
Yeah.
But I got called for downward bar motion. But to me, I'm like, the bar just shifted. It never went down. But I'm like, I was fucking furious because, one, I tore the lat and I didn't get the lift. So the tearing lat
There's
didn't
no
do
reward.
me anything.
Fuck.
I go, fuck me, man. This sucks. But I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, it's pro day. These people are lifting heavy. It's a judge's job to protect the lifter. I go, she saw something. She said, take it. I'm like, it's what it is. It's a sport. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then after that tear, benching was super hard. Like, I'm not a very good bencher anyway, so I need all the help I can get. And I was like the goal that meet was to tie my old PR because of all the injuries I've had. I'm like, if I can get back to my old PR within like 7 months, I'm like, oh, that's awesome progress to me. So I fell about 10 pounds shy of that just because I went to go push, like my last heavy bench, I went to like 369 or 375, whatever. And I opened up and I started to flare. And usually at that point, the back will engage and you can push out of it.
Sure.
Well, the tearing lat was like, not today, buddy. So there's just no pushing out of it. And then deadlifts was like even worse because it was just pulling down on that lat. So like, we're just like, even with one plate, I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. Like, it hurts. So I was just like, well, I'll just warm up faster. and I'll just pull the weight faster so it doesn't hurt as quick. Because I'm like, it's already torn and I'm already at the meat. Well, who cares? And it didn't detach. So there's no detachment point. So I'm like, whatever's bleeding out and tearing, it's just in the middle. Like, so I don't really care. Like, if it gets worse, whatever. I might just add another week or two to my recovery. I'm already at the meat. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So I end up, I'm like, I think I could pull my opener, which is like 633. Pulled it, hurt. I'm like, whatever. And then I wanted to do 672, which would be a meat PR. I'm like, if I could PR in a meat with a torn lat, I'm like, that's pretty good. I'll take that. Pulled 672 with not too much of an issue, but that lat was starting to scream at me. And I'm like, But since losing that squat, I needed to take like 688 to have a PR total. So I'm like, I might as well try. I'm already here, whatever. Yeah. And I go to pull it, came off the ground pretty fast, but right around my knees, I really felt the lat. I started to feel it to roll. Like the muscle where it tore started to roll up, and I started shaking, and I go, this is it. I started back down. I'm like, there ain't no fight. I fought it for like a second, and I'm like, I felt that roll. I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yep.
So I set the weight down, but I'm like, I still had like a pretty good meet, all things considered. So I was happy at the end of the day. And the best part of the meet was when I started powerlifting, you would get to meet at 9 a.m. and you would leave at like 10 p.m. because it took so long. It was kind of unorganized. This meet was started at 9:15, and I think we got awards at 4. And I was like, oh, good, I can go to the bar. Like, sweet. So me and my wife were like, we got the babysitter, the nanny came and got the kids or whatever. I'm like, let's go to the bar. So we had like 4 hours to go to the bar before we had to be home. Like, this is awesome. But that was my favorite part of it. Like, had a good time, smooth meet. My lat tore, that sucked. But I go, I got 4 hours to hang out with my friends and drink with my wife. Like, this is great.
Yeah. So what are you doing now recovery-wise to get you healthy?
So I just got back into the gym this week. I usually tell all my clients, and typically most people, like, hey, after a tough prep, take the whole week off. Me being me, I'm like, yeah, I'm an exception to the rule. I don't need to take a week off. And I have people come to my house to train anyway. So I'm like, I'm not just going to sit inside while they train in the garage. So I started rehabbing this week. The first day or so of training was just like arms. What can I do? Let's assess issues, because my left knee kind of hurt because I shifted all the weight on it. So I've been having to take off like probably another week of like squatting before I can really make sure that knee's okay. So it's just like, okay, I can do biceps, do a little bit of triceps. I can do shoulders, backs out of the question the first day. Took a couple of days off. And then Friday night we trained again, because Friday night squats. It's not going to change because I'm injured or not a prep. Other people have meets to do. So people are coming over to train. And so I started rehabbing my back. And for whenever we rehab, it's just a simple approach. Here are a list of movements. What can you do? What can't you do? If you could do them, we start with so say I'm the seated row. I have a seated row in my garage. One-handed, 30 pounds didn't hurt. I guess you're doing 30 pounds this week. Okay, 30 pounds. When we just push blood, 20 reps, 5 sets, 20 reps, whatever. So, okay, that doesn't hurt. I could do a straight bar row with a machine. Okay, I could do 70 pounds. Okay, cool. Write it down. Next week, I'll try 90. And so it's just basically I assess what I can do, what hurts, what doesn't hurt. Whatever doesn't hurt certain range of motions, I'll do an increased weight. And then it's just week by week what feels good. And obviously it's healing. The body's healing as it does. Anytime there's an injury, that's where all the blood goes. So it's healing itself. So I go every week, it's just going to get better. I'm just going to get stronger. And then I would imagine by the end of the year, I'll be back to deadlifting normal. Everything will be fine. Like, I'm just not, it doesn't seem like it looked bad when it started bleeding out, because it bleeds out into the tricep because that's where the attachment point is. And then gravity, it's going to bleed down. So it's bleeding down into my tricep. So everybody's like, oh my God, you tore your tricep? Or was it? No, it's just my back's bleeding out into my arm.
Yeah.
But it hasn't affected me at work. So I'm like, it can't be that bad. It just, and plus I deadlifted 672 on it. So how fucking bad could it be? You know what I mean? Like, it hurt, but it held.
Yeah.
So it's just week by week analysis of what hurts, what doesn't, and can we increase weight?
Sure.
And then we go from there. So I would imagine within 4 to 6 weeks, I'll be probably pretty much back to normal. Start of the year, I'll be fresh-ish. I'll be fine. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
So going into your Friday night squats, any heavy day, like what I've heard some hardcore rap. What's your music preference?
Well, for reference, on my last heavy deadlifts in the meet, I put on Brooks and Dunn, She Used to Be Mine, which is like slow country, very country. So like sometimes me and my buddy will push like there's this artist named Stitches, like a complete, like he looks like an idiot, but like his music gets us like fired up. So sometimes it's like that heavy rap. Other times, like my one training partner Cam, it's like slow country. It's like one artist is called his music. What the fuck's this song called? It's called Pine Box. He talks about how he wants to die in a pine box, bury me in a pine box. It's like the super saddest country song ever, but it fires him up. So that's what we listen to.
Okay.
My other buddy Jacob, he likes rap, so we usually put on rap for him. And then for me, it's like sometimes it's like heavy, screaming in your face rap, and then sometimes it's just slow country. You know, it just depends. I mean, we're a little different in that aspect, I guess. It's not always like that screamo rock, early 2000s shit. It's like sometimes it's rap, sometimes you just listen to country, and then sometimes it's just little rock in the background and we're good to go because everybody's yelling and firing each other up. Sometimes we don't even need music. And then half the time, when I'm at a meet, guys are like, what song you want? I'm like, I can't hear shit. I don't know what's going on. Like when I'm squatting, it's silence. Like I said, like that 2 seconds of tearing my lat and like squatting, like to me, that's like a minute. Everything's quiet. I don't hear anything. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those like modes you get in.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't need it.
Yeah.
So.
Looking back at your career, what have been the toughest moments? Like, shit, this sucks.
Just some of the preps, man. Like, just go back with like the working and stuff. Like, just sometimes you're just in the gym, you know, like 11, 12 at night, like by yourself. Everybody else is sleeping, and it's like, this is not fucking ideal. Like, it's just not. Like, I'd be benching. Like, for instance, one time, like a month ago, I was we were crazy busy at work. I'm benching by myself, and I'm like barely getting my bench up, and I'm just like hanging my head. I'm like, is this even fucking worth it? What am I doing? Like, would I even be better sleeping right now and trying? Like, I'm just not much of a morning worker outer. Like, I'd rather work in the mornings.
Yeah.
So like sometimes it's just hard. It's like when you have people around, it's so much easier to push. When you're by yourself and it's cold and it's dark and nobody else is fucking around, you have no distractions. Sometimes it's just like, man, this is tough. It's tough to be fired up. It's tough to, you know, to show up and, you know, but to me, it's just like, just punch the fucking ticket, clock in, clock out, and you'll feel better in the morning. And I usually do.
Yeah.
But some moments it's just hard. Like you just don't want to be there.
Yeah.
You know?
What are the toughest obstacles that you've been able to overcome?
Probably a combination of the lack of sleep. It's just tough. It's just, if I sleep more, I'm going to do less, but I don't want to do less, but it would be better if I did less. So it's like a constant battle in my head. Like, you can sleep more, but then you're not going to spend the 2 hours with your wife at night.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to spend the 2 hours on the company in the morning. Like, so there's takeaways. So I'm like, well, I could sleep less. So that's definitely a battle of mine that I struggle with. And then just, you know, having injuries, you know, training around them. Like, so for now, like for the next 2 months, it's basically going to rehab this lat, and everybody else, like my one buddy's going to start prep. So I'll be watching everybody train heavy while I do rows with 70 pounds. Like, so it's like, mentally you're like, fuck, you know, it's like being outside a party. You're just looking through the window. Like, oh, that looks fucking fun. I'll be over here. Like, so mentally, sometimes that's tough, but I've always been pretty, like, I've never had a like mental, like any kind of issues. Like, I grew up like, normal. My parents have been together for 30 years. We lived out on a farm. I didn't really have any huge problems. Like, I got in a little trouble when I was a kid, but like nothing major. So like mentally, I'm like pretty fucking rock solid. So that, you know, that really helps to like dissuade any issues. Like, it just mentally, I'm fucking pretty solid. So that helps a lot.
So going into the mental piece, are there any mental training that you do of any sort? Like, do you do any, let's say, breath work? Do you do meditation? Do you do journaling? Or you just know who you are, damn to the core, and just get after it?
Yeah, I just know the fuck I am. Like, I just, you know, I kind of, so for instance, my dad was before he had kids, he's in a biker club. So my dad growing up was the toughest motherfucker I knew. And like, some guys say my dad's tough. I'm like, no, my dad's pretty fucking tough. Like, he was just a tough dude. He had to be, you know, in his circumstances that he put himself in. So that, like, made me probably grow up a little harder, and
Mm-hmm.
even not even always harder, because and it's the opposite. My mother was like an angel, like literally, like she came from heaven. You're an angel. Like three boys, you know, we had like, but we had a good fucking growing up. So like mental issues never really were there for me. And then something about, this is a controversial piece that Jordan Peterson talks about, is you don't grow up until you have children. Like you don't
Yep,
become
for sure.
the man or the woman you want to be until you have to care for something more than you care about yourself.
Yep.
So having kids at, what was I? Trying to think. My daughter's 4, 20. Okay, so I was 23 when I
Mm-hmm.
found out my girlfriend was pregnant. At the time, now she's my wife. But like, so having that, I grew up in this kind of not a super hard environment. My dad, was a bit of a hard ass, so it made us hard asses in a sense, but in a good sense. But I was always kind of like a little bit softer, honestly, when I was growing up. Like, I remember me and my girlfriend like got in a fight when I was the woman I'm married to now, Amber. We got in a fight when I was like 2 weeks into dating her, and I was like such a fucking pussy. Like I cried, told her I loved her, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? But I was just kind of a little bit on the softer side.
Mm-hmm.
And then having the kid, Emery, when she was obviously born, like when I was 24 ish, um, there was no crying at the hospital. There was no tears of joy. There were no tears of anything.
Mm-hmm.
There was this like ultimate realization: you better get your fucking shit together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was more of grow up now,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no time to fuck around. And there's something to be said, and I've always said this, for being not just the toughest guy in the room, but being the someone can always go to and lean on.
Mm.
That is maybe the hardest person at that moment. And this brings me to, like I'm saying, my oldest is 4, but I've told you, I think before offline, that I have a 21-year-old. Well, I'm 28, so that really doesn't make any fucking sense, right? I can't have a kid when I'm 7, which I don't think so. I wasn't trying, that's for sure. But we took in my wife's youngest sister when I was 26, 25. Their father passed away. Their mother wasn't in the picture. She had nowhere to go. So we went to the courts. We adopted her when she was 16, took her in. So then all of a sudden, another ultimate realization, right? After my first kid, ultimate realization, get your shit together. Now, at 20 a year later, basically, you have a 16-year-old that you have to care for, to feed, house, she's basically, whatever on the payroll.
Yep.
And, you have to help I wouldn't say be her father, but be a father figure now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and there was really no, like, it wasn't even a hard decision to take her in. It was like, this is what's going on. These are the next steps. We have to go to court. We have to do this. Like, get it done. I would just tell you, you're mine now forever. But so that was another growing up thing. And then as soon as we got her, we had twins. So like, that was like almost a blessing in a weird way. That, they were, whatever people say, like God works in mysterious ways. It was weird how she came to us, because we had twins very relatively soon. And that was tough because my other daughter was like 15 months old. And then I got these 2 new ones, and I'm not good with babies. My wife's telling me to rock her a certain way. I'm rocking her. I'm sweating on her. The baby's sweating. I go, this is fun. Like, this is good fatherhood. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like not good until they're like 1. So her all of a sudden living with us, like the live-in aunt / kid that I'm raising, like was like almost a blessing in disguise having her. And then just having all these things happen within like a 24 to 26, 27-year-old time period was like almost just made me harder. And it made me want to do more, provide more. And now she's in college, so that, she's away at college, she's doing her own thing. But like I always say, she's still on the fucking payroll. So I still got to make sure my shit's together. If she needs advice, or she needs to come home, I have to take care of that, which is fine. We're happy to do it. Me and my wife are happy to do it. But it's like, it's always a thing in my head. And then you're also like, I'm 28 and I'm giving advice to a 21-year-old, so it's also like, that's my kid, quote unquote. So it definitely, it adds to the level of difficulty, but the reward that you get out of it is nothing else matters. You know what I mean? Like the reward of watching her grow up and seeing her with our kids, and stuff like that. It's more rewarding than anything. Like just knowing like that you always did the right thing,
Mm,
taking her in and whatnot. So
mm.
it's definitely a cool aspect, but it definitely like it's making me tougher and harder when you'd almost think like having four daughters make you softer. Like I went the exact opposite way, which
Huh.
sometimes doesn't really help. It makes it harder in my marriage just because like I have this tough guy mentality of like getting everything done. And then plus I want to do a million different things
Sure.
all while making sure everybody else is taken care of. So it adds a degree of difficulty, but the reward is fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Having a daughter myself, I mean, it definitely had me scale back, but in the same time step up for sure. And scale
Yeah.
back,
Yep.
it
Yep.
did make me softer. And I have this theory that if you're a man and if you have a daughter, you have, and especially for you, there's a reason. Like there are lessons to learn. There's some lesson to learn about the feminine that probably you need. I know for me myself, I needed to soften. My ego needed to be tempered. I needed to be humbled. I needed to step up and do things for others and not myself. So I'm glad, in a sense, that I didn't have a son to not, because I already
Yeah.
go wild so many times. I didn't need more
Yeah.
wild energy in the household. So,
Right. Right.
and it kind of sounds like that to a degree for yourself as well. But you give me your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it shapes everybody differently, but the stepping down and stepping up, like
Yeah.
only people who have kids will understand what the fuck you're talking about. Like, and
Mm,
I'm like, when you said that, I'm like, spot on, dude,
mm-hmm,
absolutely, because it's like you need to back off certain things, but then step up as a person,
mm-hmm.
personally. So yeah, but like I think I know what you mean when you say like a little bit softer, like because at first, like all this shit going on, right? So like it's making me hard as a person, taking someone else in the process, and then having all these kids in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
Um, made me want to step up and then step down, as you were saying. But also, like the softness will still come in through like the for me, it's tough to have one-on-one interactions with my kids because they're all roughly the same age. They all like to take one away from the group, the others will start freaking out
Mm,
almost.
mm,
It's hard to
mm-hmm.
like separate when there's three of them.
Yeah.
So like, but yesterday, for example, I was cleaning up. We had our pool closed and cleaning up and putting everything away and putting all the lawn chairs, all the bullshit away because it's getting cold here.
Mm-hmm.
And like my two daughters didn't want to help. They wanted to help mom bake and make pizza and stuff for dinner. I'm like, okay, so I had Hartley, my middle child, come with me, and it's like someone that small and can just break you down. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Like she
yeah.
slipped and fell. Like my knee's killing me. I sprinted across. She slipped and fell like 3 steps. Like she was fine, but like that, like you sprint across, grab her, pick her up, hold her, and then you're like, this is the softness
Mm,
that you can't read and do. You know what I mean? It's
mm-hmm.
like moments of being with your kids and then having them being like, your whole, it's your whole world. You care about them more than you care about yourself. It makes you soft. And my wife will see it with me. And they're like, it's weird sometimes when situations are escalated, like kids are screaming, yelling, my wife's frustrated, or I'm frustrated. I'll get calmer in those times of high stress
Mm,
where most people get more stress, more louder. But I've always tried to implement that louder is never better. Better
mm-hmm.
is better. So
Mm,
I'll get calmer as things get escalated. So I think having all the daughters that I have has brought down that softness of me where I can look through a situation, step away. And for me, kids being young, you just fucking calm down and distract. That's all you have to do. Hey, come look at this. Hey, do this. You're crying about something because your sister did this, whatever. Hey, I'm gonna pull you away for a second. Look at this. Hey, look at this funny picture on my phone. And then like to me, it's all distraction. And then being able to be the voice of reason and softening.
mm,
Sometimes it's me, sometimes my wife can do it, and I'm getting stressed out just because of, like you said, when sometimes you have lack of sleep, eventually it's gonna fucking catch up with you. Eventually it fucking catches up with me.
yes.
So you just get frustrated easier,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's funny because people always say like, hey, you're gonna miss these times, step back and look. But I do a very good job of stepping back and looking while I'm in the moment. It's like telling you about when my daughter fell.
Mm-hmm.
Not a huge deal. Slipped a couple stairs, but like that moment of holding her, knowing like one day you ain't gonna want me to pick you up. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So I'm always
Mm-hmm.
like conscious in those moments and softer in those moments when you have to be. And other times you got to be, like the hard, like for instance, like I'm saying, someone has to be the hardest guy in the room. at the funeral of my father-in-law. Very sad. He was very young. He was like 42. You know, we have all these problems. We're gonna take Haley in. That's this 1-year-old, 21-year-old. But you ain't gonna fucking catch me crying because that's not the time. You know what I mean? Like you have to be soft, but you have to be hard, because if I'm crying, what the fuck are they gonna do? They just lost their dad. And my wife's got 3 younger siblings, so there's 4 of them. And it's like at that time you have to be the hardest. So like those moments like that almost make me harder and tougher, and like almost, hey, turn the fucking emotions off for a while, which makes other parts of, you know, life hard, but it makes a lot of other parts of life easy for others. So like that balance that we talked about is, it's tough, because sometimes there ain't no fucking balance. You know, you have to be one or the other. So,
I mean, as long as you have awareness, as long as you know what you're doing, and you don't get stuck in that state and don't know how to get back, then hey, I mean, it's all about that. It's if you have awareness, consciousness behind it, for sure, man.
Yeah. Oh, and then having a good partner at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She could see it. She could read me before, you know, before I can get in the door sometimes. And she knows. And like, so having that is more than any, you know, you'd be lost with her. You'd be stuck in one or the other, you know, without her. So that helps a lot.
So I'm curious now, nature versus nurture. You probably have the most interesting, if you look from the outside and you saw on paper, you and your 2 brothers, the 3 of you, and how you would like, how would you describe each brother? I'm like, whoa, like, how did that turn out?
So like, I have an older brother, but it was funny because we were all in high school at the same time. My brother was a senior, my other brother was a sophomore, and I was a freshman. So like half the time, me and my middle brother would be in detention together, so we'd be able to ride home together because we were always fucking off. And like getting in fights and being idiots, you know what I mean? Like these kids are. But yeah, talk about 3 different people. Like my one brother is he's a trauma surgeon in Chicago, like which is Chicago's notorious for being just terrible. like so many shootings and killings and stuff. And he's in Chicago, a surgeon, like Dr. Kallas, like, you know, it's kind of funny. And then, you know, my other brother's in Austin, Texas, and he's about 30 now. And he's just wild, man. Like the best way I can describe it and the easiest to relate is Dan Bazarian, but 30 and not rich. Like he does well for himself, but he's not a multi-million-dollar poker player. But that's like what he is. Like always surrounded with all these women, and he's in Austin, Texas, and just like moved there 10 years ago. Decided Illinois sucks. I'm out of here. I'm gonna try something new, and then just because I ain't never coming back. And now he's like this somewhat of a, you know, kind of gigolo playboy down there, but you know, he's living his life, and he fucking. I think now, getting into his 30s, he's like, I'm kind of done with this. You know, it's time to settle, kind of time to grow my roots into something else a little more meaningful. So I think he's finally coming to that realization. But again, like we talked about, you don't grow up until you have a kid. You just don't. Yeah. So I think that, you know, in the next 5 years, that's going to be a big step for him, and then growing up and learning that. But it's definitely like, because you have me doing the multitude of things I try to do every day, and then the surgeon and the guy that's sending me these hilarious Snapchats and telling me these awesome stories of how he is in Texas. You know what I mean? So it's like the 3, but then, you know, my parents couldn't be prouder because, you know, we're all decently successful. We do well for ourselves. And like, you know, we never, like I said, we never had any problems growing up. And we just didn't. Like my wife's like, oh, what's it like having a normal childhood? I'm like, well, you know, this is what you get out of it, a normal guy. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's interesting seeing, like, getting all 3 of us together is like a super fun time. You know?
So wrapping it up with a few questions, if you look at yourself 10 years from now, what type of advice do you think you would give yourself? And that is one part. Let's start with that.
I would probably, that's tough, because part of me says I would tell myself to slow down and focus on things one at a time, instead of doing like, hey, I want to do tree trimming. Hey, I want to do this on the side. Hey, I want to start bull riding. Hey, this business is great. Let's do something else. Probably tell myself to slow down and just be in the moment a little bit more. So like even now, like knowing this, trying to live, you know, conscious of being super busy and then being at home and trying to be, you know, a better father. Yeah. Like others always tell myself, like, because my phone is always going off. Always. If it's not somebody, it's something. So it's like half the time I'll just take it, I put it on the counter far away, I plug it in, I put it down, I put it on vibrate. Like if work calls, it's a separate ringer for that if I have to go in. But sometimes like you gotta fucking separate. So like living in the moment is definitely one thing I need to get better at. And like I constantly try to do it. But that's probably one thing I would tell myself is just if you're not going to stop doing a million different things, when you are doing the one of the things, fatherhood, whatever it is, be in that moment for as much as you can and be that 100% that they need, even if it's only for 2 hours. You know what I mean? I think that's a big one that I would probably like to be better at. And looking back, I'd probably tell myself to be better at.
I think that's just an amazing way of wrapping it up too. Tom, it's sincerely, it's been a pleasure. I mean, what strikes me about you is that you have so many irons in the fire, yet still you are incredibly level-headed. You know where you're at, you know what you stand for, you know what matters. I damn sure, I mean, my priorities, not always the best, so damn much respect to you for doing it and not even having designated practices. And when I say that, I mean, like, there's so many people, even like I've gotten into like mindfulness stuff when we talk about deep meditations, deep breath work, all that stuff. Seeing you just execute, damn, thank you for putting that out into the world, and just you being you and knowing who you are and putting that effort into everything that you do. You're making a difference. So thank you for being a change maker.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Now this is it's fun, like I said, but when you podcast, sometimes you don't get to talk about yourself because you're talking about someone else somewhere. So like someone listens to this, they're gonna learn a lot more about me, even though I've recorded 100 episodes on a podcast. So it is kind of nice to like not therapy, but like almost like put it back out there. Like this is what I got going on.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's good because other people get fucking fired up about it. Like, oh, this like I'm a fucking idiot from the middle of nowhere, 1,000 people town, one hallway high school with 40 people that we graduated with. Like I'm from nowhere. If I can do it, 100. Like they always say, if I could do it, you could do it. Like 100% you could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just from nothing, small town, to doing whatever it is, whatever I want, providing like anybody can do it. That's what people, I do get that question a lot, like with motivation, how do you still train? How do you still do it? You're like, you just get up, wake up and do it. Like it gets hard sometimes, but it's also like, if you have a couple more hours a day because you decide to sleep less, you can get a lot of fucking things done. So I don't know. It's just, I just hope that I can drive someone else to do the same things, you know, maybe not do as many things as I do, like focus on smaller things at once, but like, I always want to be that driver. Like sometimes I'll go on Instagram and I'll do some rants and stuff just because I'm like, I don't want to show off that I'm working late.
Please keep that up. Freaking amazing.
But like, right. But people do, like, they appreciate it. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's fucking 1,000 people, but part of me wants to make sure I'm humble. I don't want to be a fucking asshole. Like, look at me, I'm fucking midnight, I'm squatting. Like, no, this is not ideal. Don't do this. But if you're gonna, you know, be 100% commit, get up early, stay up late, you know what I mean? Because that's what you have to be for, hopefully this is not forever, but if it has to be like this way for 10 years, then so be it. But I just hope that it fucking fires someone else up to do just one more extra thing, or just, hey, step away and be a better dad for those 2 hours that you have your kid. Put your phone down. Well, Tom said that he does it, so that's why I'm going to do it. Like just little shit like that. I'm like, God, I hope I could just push that out and somebody else can fucking ingest it and listen and you know, do something that I say and take forward and be a better person because of it. Because that's all that fucking matters, right?
Boom.
Tom. Man, I'm fucking fired up, dude. It's
fucking, hey,
fired up. I love it, dude.
Go get it.
Awesome.
Family time.
Yeah.
Halloween. Right. Get after it.
It's Halloween, man. I got to go dress up. So, yeah, awesome.
Woo. Okay. Tom really knows himself, so damn, I am grateful that he's out there doing the work that he is, putting in the hours, and he's seeing the feedback. He's seeing the gains. He's seeing the results. It's not always pretty, but he gets it done. And I think a lot of us have a thing or two to learn from that. Of course, I've done that myself. I can't speak enough to this, is rest, recovery, do silence, do meditation, do something that keeps you sane within. He surely knows what it is for him. And that's amazing. We all work differently. If you want to connect more with Tom and see what this amazing just performer is up to, all the show notes have the links to his social media, to his website, and so forth. And if you want to check out our programs, which are phenomenal, 7-day free trial, you have the gymnastics, CrossFit, you have calisthenics. I mean, you have a little bit of everything. There are two mainly. There's three. They're in the that we're working on right now as well. And I do these programs. There's a reason why and we have them up there, because I didn't find anything that was as methodical, as thoroughly thought out. Everything had everything chopped up, or it was randomized, or it was just a sliver of what I wanted. This actually incorporates what I always wanted. So give it a try. Safina, all caps 15, to get 15% off your first month. And if you haven't done so far, please leave 5 stars. If this show helps you, scroll down on Apple, hit 5 stars. It literally takes you 5 seconds. Hit like, subscribe. I truly appreciate you doing this. Thank you very much. And I'm sending you so much love. Until next time.